Mr. Smith, for the sake of editing, you're going to give me your name one more time. I know to ask you that.
Yeah, I'm Peter Smith. I was the founding president of what is now the Community College of Vermont. I was the founding president of California State University, Monterey Bay, founding president of Open College at Kaplan University. Having spent my time from day one sort of on what was the fringe or the periphery, sort of the risky fringe of higher ed, doing things that the mainstream thought were not appropriate or low quality or whatever it might be. And what's really wonderful, A, about this meeting, but B, about current events, is that what used to be considered fringe activity is now coming to the mainstream. And it's becoming mainstream activity of higher education that wants to serve people who have not been served well or at all in the past. It's in a state of high disruption. I think we're really at the beginning of that. The forces that are changing higher education, free and open, high quality content, all of those things are just beginning to challenge the notion that there's a place called a campus with people called faculty where you go and get what it is you need in order to proceed in life. I happen to think those functions are going to remain important, but the way we've historically done them was based on a pre-digital era where you had to do those things and do them in that way in order to do them at all. One of the things the Connect conference is really focused on is what are the changes, what are the drivers, what are the opportunities, what are the options as they look at this world of change, how do they survive and grow in that environment? And that's the $64 question. I think higher education has been as or more resistant to change as any particular segment because it's well buffered from actual consumer desires. You have a historic role of the faculty as a protector of intellectual freedom, of free speech, of content, and those protections are built into the policies and the structures and the economic model that is a traditional campus. So I think higher education has been much more resistant than banks or newspapers or the music industry or retailing, because those places are one-to-one with the customer. And I think the changes inevitably will come because higher education doesn't control the changes or the drivers of the changes that are all around them. For the first time, they affect higher ed, but they lie, if you will, off campus, beyond the reach of traditional colleges. If I can't control the change will in fact affect me. And that's what's finally happening with higher ed. I think the people here and the way the conference has been structured is, I think has been brilliant. It's leaning towards the future. I'm sure there are some outliers, but the people I've spoken with, they are looking actively for solutions to the difficulties that they face that are brought on by these disruptive forces. And the agenda is oriented to embrace those changes and try to figure out what's going to work for my institution in its situation, because there isn't going to be any one answer given their own history, tradition, and strengths. So there's going to be a lot of different permutations of how people adapt. But everybody here that I've talked to has already embraced the notion that they're going to have to change. The consequences of doing nothing in the face of disruptive change, which is sure failure. Yes, this conference is very helpful where people can think together about what to do. Can only help people get where these folks in Learning House are, which is over that threshold, beginning to deal with this new world. I think you go from being threatened and resistant to being engaged and acting on the future. That's what makes being a professional cool. That's what makes it being fun. I'm actually doing something that is different and important and tapping into all of the reserves that I have. You go from passive resistance to active engagement, and it's the difference between night and day. I was really blown away by the nature of this agenda. Sometimes you see an agenda and then in fact the reality is different. In this case, the agenda was a precursor to the reality, which was even better than what the agenda suggested. So to me, hats off to the people who created it, because they're not only doing a good thing for their customers and the company, but they're doing the right thing in terms of trying to understand the future and what it brings and the great potential that the future has for higher education.